Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
A whole bunch of people sent me the story, including Skylar and Mike from WRAL. And we've heard about this story quite a bit, this kind of story happening, where somebody files fraudulent papers to make it look like they bought a house, they own a house that they don't own or they haven't bought. And unfortunately, there's a flaw in the system in most states in that many offices, many clerks' offices where they file documents, they don't examine the documents. They simply accept them for filing. And so a lot of people think, well, if I filed something and they accepted it for filing, that must be some kind of approval, right? No, you can file almost anything you want sometimes. And so somebody can come by and file a fraudulent deed on your house. It gets recorded because someone filed it and they paid the filing fee. And so it becomes a mess to straighten out. But the headline here is, Raleigh man believes a woman filed a fraudulent deed on his home to squat there and slow the eviction process. And of course, if you didn't catch her, she could wind up owning the house through adverse possession. Now, it'll take a while, but the owner of the home says a woman he's never met filed the documents. So this is all happening down there in North Carolina. A dentist recently listed his home for sale. Shortly after he listed it, he said someone else filed paperwork with the Wake County Register of Deeds and tried to take over the home. He said, I've never met this woman in my entire life, a total stranger. He said, when Five on Your Side asked if you'd ever met the woman who filed the papers, something like this makes you feel violated, vulnerable, and frightened. The name listed on the fraudulent deed is a woman's name. Five on Your Side called her multiple times, trying to give her a chance to share her side of what happened. But a man answered the phone claiming he was her attorney in fact. Her attorney in fact. When Five on Your Side asked for a statement, his response was, what is the name of the law that was broken when the deed was recorded? Fraud. F-R-A-U-D. Fraud. During a 40-minute conversation with Five on Your Side, the man repeatedly mentioned the fact that the home was at one point listed as a foreclosure on a website. Now, the home is not a foreclosure. It never was, and it was a computer glitch that briefly listed it that way for a short period of time. Despite being asked repeatedly, the attorney, in fact, would not explain why the listing the home as a foreclosure had any bearing on the situation. So they filed this fraudulent deed and said it was listed as a foreclosure. Well, if it had been a foreclosure, it would have gone to an auction where you can bid on it, but it never went to auction because it wasn't a foreclosure. So the woman did not have to present any proof she actually owned the home to the Register of Deeds. She just walked in, or her attorney in fact did, and filed it. There was no inquiry about who owns the property. If there had just been one simple check, my name would have popped up. There are no accountability measures, none. He only learned what was happening after the woman contacted the neighborhood management company asking for the gate access codes. Somebody from that management company had called his neighbor, and that's how he found out. He explained to the Wake County Register of Deeds that the document the woman filed was fraudulent, but he was told the only way to get the property record fixed was to prove in civil court that the warranty deed is fake. And so he's now thinking it might cost him about $8,000 in legal fees. He said this is pretty scary for North Carolina citizens because anyone can go downtown and make a false claim on someone else's property. He told Five on Your Side he believes the woman's intention was to squat in the house and use the deed to slow down the eviction process. Now, the Wake County Sheriff's Office incident report lists the crime as fraud, obtaining property by false pretense. So the TV station asked a county spokesperson to explain what's happening here. And they wrote back and said, under North Carolina law, registers of deeds are statutorily obligated to accept and immediately register documents in conformity with the law. The Register of Deeds is not required to verify the legal validity of a deed when it is presented for registration, nor are they required to verify the credentials or legal standing of the notary or drafter of the document. With more than 500 documents processed daily, it would be impossible to verify the legitimacy of each document or the credentials of each notary, nor does the Register of Deeds office have access to a database of commissioned notaries to check against. Register of Deeds staff are not attorneys and are explicitly barred from giving legal advice. As soon as the Register of Deeds office became aware of the fraudulent deed, it alerted the tax administration office that no tax information of the property should be changed. Register of Deeds staff also immediately notified and is working with the Wake County Sheriff's Office. The homeowner was also encouraged to file a police report. So this, like I said, is the flaw in the system. I can take a blank piece of paper, write some gibberish on it, walk into a Register of Deeds office or many other clerks around the country, pay a filing fee, and they'll accept it for filing. And because it's accepted for filing, people go, oh, I win. No, it's been accepted for filing. Unfortunately, this guy now has a cloud on the title to this property. And he's trying to sell it, but it's going to be harder to sell with a clouded title. So an attorney explained to Channel 5 that the Register of Deeds, they're not attorneys. She said that the deed fraud like this isn't exactly common, but it does happen, and it's something homeowners need to be aware of. She explained it happens most often on properties that are held in LLCs, trusts, or that are paid off. Because if they do this with a property that's got a lien on it, well, the lien holder will get notified. And the lien holder is going to call up the true owner and go, what's this all about? And they go, I didn't sell the property. Okay, you better get this straightened out. So the attorney said there's not really a way to prevent this, but you can contact your local Register of Deeds to set up a fraud alert if this is available, so that anytime something is filed with your name on it, you are notified. And if it does happen to you, the legal process is, you can correct it, but it can cost you thousands of dollars, and it's lengthy. It takes time. So you're a victim of fraud, and you're doing all this work, and if you spend money to clean up something you did nothing to have happen to you. So the man is pursuing charges against the woman that he says filed the fraudulent deed. Someone could face felony charges for filing a fraudulent deed, but even if they are convicted, the homeowner still needs to go to the civil courts to get their record corrected. And as of right now, no charges have been filed. Another protection homeowners can look into is purchasing an insurance policy that covers legal costs up to a certain amount. Just be very mindful when you do that it does actually protect you, and that insurance is going to actually cover you for things that you're looking for. But the real thing here, like I said, is unfortunately, anybody can take anything and file it, and it'll be accepted for filing. And the real limit to this, the furthest I've ever seen it, is I remember there was a court in Michigan that had a box and it said filings. And there's a time-stamped clock, next to it, type that you use to punch in and out of work. And if your filing did not require a fee, because not all filings did, you could actually file it yourself. And I was actually joking with my friends that one of these days I was going to get a Batman comic book and file it. Just go down, clunk, and throw it in for filing and see what they do with it. Because you could literally, anything that would fit in that slot to get time-stamped could be put in the box for filing. And so I remember years ago seeing stories about fake deeds being filed and people filing stuff in their own homes, believe it or not, in an attempt to get the liens off their mortgages, stuff like that. And they go, it's the weirdest thing. It worked. It worked. See, I drafted up a deed where I said I own the home free and clear without mentioning the bank that thinks it's got a lien on my house for some wacky reason. And they accepted it for filing. Boom, I'm good. Until the bank comes along and goes, no, we still have a lien on your property. You can't just extinguish it by filing paperwork on top of it. What? And so it's a disconnect. But I understand that they don't have time to do all that work. To literally take, okay, this piece of paper came in, let's spend 3 hours vetting it. Because they get hundreds of these. And they wouldn't have time to do that. But on the other hand, it's something you need to be aware of. So it does happen. The attorney said it doesn't happen a lot, but it's hard to define those kinds of things. But I see stories like this quite often in the papers. And it's people filing fraudulent documents or people simply moving into homes that are unoccupied. And so there is a danger that you need to be aware of if you list a home for sale. Because if you list a home for sale, especially put a for sale sign out in front, people come by and they look at the sign and they walk around the house. Now, generally speaking, I would never drive my car into a neighborhood, just pick a house at random and walk around it. But if there's a for sale sign in the yard, I can say, oh, I'm looking at the house because it's for sale. And if somebody yells at you, you can get in your car and drive away, but it'd be kind of hard to get the police involved to say, well, there's a house for sale and some guy's walking around the house looking in the windows. However, if you're up to no good and you walk around the house and it's for sale and you realize nobody lives there, Next thing you know, someone's moving in there. They drilled out the locks, they changed the locks. And now when someone shows up and goes, hey, we're trying to sell this house, you go, no, I live here. You can't sell my house. And getting that person out, depending on what state you're in, can be a pain in the rear end. So this is a crazy case because the guy trying to sell his house, it's an expensive house, and somebody involved in this actually saying, well, what law did we break? What law? Fraud. It's fraud. It's out and out fraud. That's This was not that tricky. This is not a law school exam because those aren't short answers. It's fraud. So Raleigh man believes woman filed fraudulent deed in his home to squat there and to slow down the eviction process. And I think even to possibly end up with his house. So that's from WRAL. 5 on your side. And Skylar, Mike, and a lot of other people sent it. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. A life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful than a life spent doing nothing. Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. A life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful than a life spent doing nothing.